Go live. Going live. You're live. We are live. We exist.
We're alive.
It looks like we exist. So if I refresh this, it'll probably...
Is this where we're supposed to insert our evil laugh?
The poison is in the water. Hello, everybody. I think that we are currently live and that people on the CarBuzz YouTube channel can see us.
We are live. We exist.
Yes. Okay. All right. So I have it live. It's working. I'm Jared Rosenholtz, senior editor with CarBuzz.com, and I have two very special guests here. I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves.
I'm Sofyan with Redline Reviews.
And I'm Alex with Alex on Autos.
Yep, and these are two of my favorite YouTuber friends when we're off on our many adventures with press cars. But as you all know, there's nothing going on right now because of stupid COVID-19. So we're all locked up doing these Zoom calls. I've seen you guys have done a couple, and I was like, this is a great idea to sort of get our opinions out there in a different way than the car reviews and let people ask their questions. So I have the questions open if anybody wants to ask any live. And if any of your guys' followers have them either, feel free to pitch those. We've got a nice little, I'm assuming, is that a Seltos?
No, it's a CLA 250.
CLA 250.
I like his crazy backgrounds.
Yeah, I love the backgrounds. I might
Zoom meeting backgrounds are epic. You can do anything.
They sent me, did you guys get the email from Jaguar? They sent us a couple to put up, like E-Type and some other stuff like that as background.
Oh.
No, I did not.
I don't know the people at Jaguar you know, apparently.
It was actually Havas. They're like, their PR company that they use. It wasn't even Jag, so I'm not that important. But I think the best way to start off is maybe we go around the room and talk about what press cars we've been driving. I can start if you guys want, or one of you guys can start. It doesn't matter. Alex has 4 press cars.
Yours are so much more boring, Jared. Why don't you?
All right. So anybody who follows the CarBuzz Instagram or my personal Instagram will know I'm driving 2 cars this week, 2 vehicles. 2020 Nissan GTR Nismo and the 2020 Aston Martin TVS Superleggera.
It costs more than people's houses, right?
Yeah, both of them. I mean, depending on where you live, both of them could. I mean, Alex, is your house worth more than $379,000?
That's kind of a false equivalency since I live in California, so yes.
Okay, that's true. And Sofyan lives outside of DC, so that's not great either.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, we recently filled out all of our applications for the Small Business Administration for our relief package, and they're asking for, current valuation of your property, and it's like conservatively like I don't know, 1.3 something like that million, and and then they're like square footage of your house 550, so relative.
Okay,
it just shows your priorities are not in order, I guess, right now.
I mean, but
hey, I have an excavator, so there.
I would take this. I would live in a shack if I could own this Aston for the rest of my life, because I'll tell you about it. I've driven the DB11, the V8 one, so it's like 500 horsepower. This one has 715. So
and it's rear drive, right?
What?
And it's rear-wheel drive too.
And it's rear-wheel drive, 8-speed automatic. So I think 0 to 60 is like 3.5 seconds because it really isn't built for that. Kind of like a Hellcat's not really built for that. So it spins through first, second, third, fourth, and sometimes fifth. Like fighting for traction. So I have a multi-story garage at my apartment building, and going down it, if you put it in Sport Plus mode, you know how like the Supra, when you let off it, it'll burble. It does like pop, 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 and then it's done. This will do that for 10 seconds or longer. So you let off the throttle, and it just goes like all the way down a ramp.
Really?
It's quite entertaining, and I'm sure the neighbors hate me. It's definitely the loudest car I've ever tested. Sounds incredible. It has the most ridiculous options.
Mm-hmm.
You want to play the options game, Alex? You want to guess how much some of this stuff costs? I know.
I'm going to guess that the paint job was $10,000. Oh, sorry, the custom leather inside.
Yeah, the custom leather, the Q exclusive leather is $10,600. So I think, hold on, what I can do here is I can share my screen with everybody because I did take some amazing pictures of this leather because it doesn't even do it justice to talk about it. Let's see if I share my screen here. This is the original file, but let's see if I can get this up. You guys seeing that?
Mm-hmm.
Look at that.
It's a
Ooh la la.
I know. I do like that color.
It's just incredible. So 10,000.
It's a $10,000 gray because regular gray is just not gray enough.
But it's got other colors in it too, Alex. Don't forget.
Yeah, you don't get like I've looked at base ones. You don't get like that crazy quilt pattern. That's basically what you're paying for is like the crazy quilting. Otherwise, it kind of looks like a boring leather seat. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's see. Bang & Olufsen, Bayo Sound Audio. How much, Sofyan?
I'm gonna say $8,000.
8,400.
Oh, I'm so close.
The Underbonnet Jewelry Pack that gets you gold trim underneath the hood, so you'll never see it, and you get a gold oil cap. How much do you think?
How many carats is the gold?
I don't think it's actual gold. I think it's like gold covered.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure it's probably not real gold because that seems wrong somehow.
Yeah.
It would be more than that, I would think.
Let's see. So that's the oil cap.
Wow, fancy.
It is quite pretty. Let's see. Can I pull up a picture of the? Let's see. Where's the engine? I'll go share screen. So there's the full engine. I think it's just an incredible motor. So that's $2,300 for the thing you'll never see because you'll never open up the hood.
I don't know if it's more ridiculous than the carbon fiber engine covers that some of the brands are charging for. Like, what's more ridiculous, carbon fiber or the gold?
I would just say for way less than the options you had on that, you could have one of these cute track dumpers like I just ordered. Wow, look at that. And it's even yellow.
So for those who don't know, Alex.
And it's made in Germany.
Oh, okay, like an Audi or a BMW. There you go.
Yes. With the ultimate in quality, it has a Kubota diesel. 3 cylinders.
3 cylinders diesel. Look at that.
Like a lot. 3 cylinders. That. So, Alex, how much torque does that have?
It's like 15.5 horsepower and 17 pound-feet of torque, something like that.
All right, that'll move you in some stuff, I guess, some boulders.
So Jared, tell us about the other press car that you've got as well.
So the other press car, Alex, you've driven a GTR, right?
I have. I was very torn about it because it's very 1990s somehow. Like the turbo lag and the DC, well, the some shifting transmission, whatever we want to call it.
Yes.
It shifts. I mean, it will get you there. It is not smooth.
Yes, it does the thing that. Sofyan, you ever drove like a Mark V GLI or GTI?
Yes.
Like those early DSG cars, how they wouldn't.
Oh, so much better.
They wouldn't creep. You would have to like hit the throttle to kind of make it roll. And it was kind of hard to modulate. This is kind of like that because it came out around the same time.
The transmission on it reminds me an awful lot of the first generation smart cars. Not the best thing to be reminded of.
So I never drove one of those, but yeah,
they drive kind of like a drunk 14-year-old learning how to drive a manual. So it's like there's nothing, and then you're in first, and then then we're driving along, and then there's this moment where you're like, oh, there's nothing, and then oh my goodness, we're in second.
I haven't found it to be that jerky, although there's not really a lot of traffic right now, so that might be part of it. I'm loving Sofyan's cat just But I don't care that
just ignore Louis. He very much likes to be the center of attention. So he's like, everybody look at me.
So the transmission is one thing. It's 600 horsepower, which is not too far off the pace of this Aston, but it feels like 150 if you're not in the right gear. It's really so like when you're in normal mode, like automatic mode, and you put your foot down, it doesn't downshift. Like we're spoiled by these like modern automatics. We drive like these ones that shift so quick and they act like manuals. This one really is like a manual. So imagine you're in a manual car in 6th gear and you just put your foot down. There's nothing. Like you have to tell it to do a couple things. So it's weird. So there's no power. And then once you hit 3,000, all the power comes. It's really weird. It's really I guess neither of you have driven a Skyline GTR, right?
No.
So I have, because Florida is sketchy. You can drive things like that here. I've driven an R34 and it was kind of like that. Nothing boost hits.
Yeah. I kind of like that in a weird sort of, it's like,
so do I.
In the right car, turbo lag can have personality.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely exciting. Like Alex, we drove at AVA last year, we had the McLaren 720S.
Yes.
And the turbo lag that had was so ridiculous. But when the turbo came on like boost, it was like hilarious.
But I would still buy an M5.
Well, at least you like the M5 because
over the GTR or the McLaren, I would have an M5. I just buy the M5.
That's because you're an old man, Alex. But that's
but you can have. I mean, in our instrumented testing there, unless you had a perfect traction, the perfect launch, and you had your right foot just right on the accelerator pedal, the McLaren was slower than the M5 sometimes.
So what about the Oh, there wasn't a GTR there.
We had a GTR. The GTR is shockingly quick if you use launch control. If you don't use launch control, then the M5 is faster. And I'm not talking about launch control in M5. I'm like foot on brake, lift, accelerator, M5 faster than a GTR doing the same thing.
So the M5, I have driven an M5, but the thing that's weird about the GTR is because the M5 is an automatic, so it kind of rolls onto the power. The GTR just like punches the RPM, clutch dumps, and then it's just like all-wheel drive system, figure this out. So it donkey kicks you in the stomach and it just lets the wheels so it does a 4-wheel burnout every time. I think
if you use launch control. If you don't use launch control, then it's sort of like wait for it, engagement, turbo lag, we're going.
Yeah, no, launch control is it's like two different cars. The launch control car and then like the slow regular. It's weird because I think from 0 to 30, this will crush a 720. It's just so much quicker the way that because a 720, you guys have both driven the 720. The way that it goes about doing its launch control is so different. It drops the clutches and then it uses its traction control, so it kind of limits you a little bit, so it doesn't feel that quick off. I mean, it's quick off the line, but it's not that in your face. Let's see. So there's the GTR. That's my Nismo that I'm driving this week. Of course, they sent me the best color. Of course, I'm loving.
Did you get another refresh this year too?
Yes. So the 2020 car has some more carbon. So like everything you see here is carbon, so much so that Nissan sent me an email asking me if I would kindly back up into any parking spaces I go into. and my local PR rep, you guys know Steve, right? Steve Pratt. He told me, he was in the email, it was like, this is an excellent opportunity for you to test out the GTR's backup camera.
But here's the batshit statistic though that you need to know. So the fastest GTR 0 to 30 time with launch control, 1.3 seconds. Want to guess what a nearly 6,000 pound Jeep Grand Cherokee Trackhawk does?
Oh my God.
1.4.
Oh, I don't know. 1.4. So it's a
1.4. It is only 1/10 of a second slower than Godzilla. 30.
Well, that track
110.
be bonkers, and it holds 5 people in comfort.
Yeah, the GTR. So the GTR, I got in it, and I have like a little lip, like a metal lip on the gate to get out of my garage. And you go over it, and it's and I'm talking like 2 miles an hour, but it has a comfort mode. You know, it has those. It has like the drive modes. You know, the 3. There's one for the suspension, one for the powertrain, and then one for the traction control. And if you push the suspension one, it helps a little bit.
But I checked our time here, and mind you, the GTR time was the fastest one from Road and Track. That was their fastest 1.3 is their fastest 0 to 30 time. The 0 to 30 time we got, actually in Road and Track is identical to this. 0 to 30 time we got on the BMW M5, also 1.3.
Oh my God. I mean, they're the same.
And it's a 5-seat family sedan.
How much does the M5 weigh?
It's not a light thing. Let's see here.
Like 4,500 pounds. Something like
but
that.
nor is the GTR. The GTR is
4370.
Yeah, the GTR is 3,800 pounds, I think. So it's not light. I have the Nismo, which is the lightest of the 3, because you have the regular GTR, which is 120. You have the Track Edition, which is the one.
Still 500 pounds is a lot though. And then you've got an automatic, not a dual clutch. So supposedly there's more loss.
But it's an older dual clutch, so maybe not.
Yeah, I mean it's not the best dual clutch.
No, it's definitely a couple of years old at this point.
It's like the big thing with the GTR is in the 30 to 60 time. So 0 to 30, they're the same. And it's that lag and the turbo lag and the dual clutchiness, etc. But Nissan claims that the GTR Nismo will do 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds. So if that's true, that would make it half a second faster than the fastest M5.
Yeah, because the M5 I think is like 3 from or 3.1 from BMW, and it's really like 3, and then it's really like 2.9 if you're.
I think the fastest time we got in it was 3.0 something. So basically 3 seconds, somewhere between 3 and 3.1, right. But definitely half second slower.
I ran similar in an E63. Have you driven the E63? Because I like it more than the M5.
The E63S is crazy. Is really crazy.
That's like I feel like that has your name all over it, Alex.
I would probably get an E63 before I. Well, actually, I don't know. Would I might. That's a tricky one. I think I might get an M5 instead. I like the interior and I like the styling of the inside of the M5 a little bit more than the Mercedes interior.
Oh, I think the Mercedes interior.
They're both excellent. Right. But like the style, the preference of the style of it, I think I like the design of the M5 a little bit better. It's cleaner.
Can I sell you on E63 in one sentence or one word? Wagon.
Wagon. Yeah.
I don't know if I would buy the wagon. I think if I wanted the extra room, I would just, get a GLE 63.
I don't know. I haven't driven the new GLE 63. I have driven the X5M and X6M.
And if you want crazy, GLS 63 is insanely fast.
Yeah, that would be fun too. Or RS6. That would be a nice.
It's like you could never have imagined that a living room could go that fast.
Yeah, I've driven. What's the biggest thing I've driven with that? I mean, the X5M already felt ridiculous. I drove the X7 M50i. That should not be as fast as it is. That is.
Here we go. So apparently, when I think it was Road and Track that tested them here, and looking at some synopsis of them, the E63S is still slower than an M5.
Yeah, it's like a tenth. it's like, do you really do people buy cars based on magazine numbers, do you think?
It was three tenths slower. And then the wagon is 3.6. That's half a second slower. So the wagon E63 is as far apart from the M5 as the GTR in 0 to 60 is from the M5.
Oh, wow. So Sofyan asked me, I think it was before we came on, which one's quicker of the two cars. The GTR with launch control will beat the crap out of this Aston.
So what if you don't use the launch control on the Nissan? Does the Aston feel faster?
If I would, yes. Oh my God. So if you're going 45 miles an hour and you had both cars in their dumb automatic modes, the Aston feels like it just has torque for days. The GTR the turbos won't spool and it'll be left. You're like an Evo, like an old Evo, where it's just has no power in the wrong gear. So the Aston, because it's always wanting to spin its wheels, like the rear wheels, it always feels faster in every gear, except if you go to launch it. So in every measurable way, the Superleggera feels like the faster car. I feel like if you had to put them on a racetrack, the GTR would obviously win. The Aston weighs like 5,000.
Here's an interesting statistic that's handy. Motor Trend claims that without launch control, the GTR is 3.9 seconds, 0 to 60.
It shaves a whole second off with launch control.
Yeah, so without launch control, it's as far apart from the M5 as it is with launch control. It's like...
It's the most amazing launch control because it's so old school.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's pretty brutal.
I don't know if I'd want to do it on my personal car because it feels like it's beating the car up to like do it. Not like, you know how the NSX, Sofyan, you could launch it 1,000 times and it doesn't feel like you're hurting the car at all.
Yeah.
It's electric, and then it smoothly comes onto the power. This is the antithesis of that.
Well, it's because it's got that old, like it's still a single clutch, isn't it? In the GTR?
No, it's a dual clutch, but it's one of the early
old, yeah.
But it's only 6 speeds, though. So
yes, it's only 6 speeds, and the way it launches is like an Aventador, where it just has clutch not engaged, clutch engages, and it's just super.
The track hawk with launch control is pretty brutal too, because that 0 to 30 time is insane.
I'm getting a Hellcat finally. I haven't driven a Hellcat yet, and I'm getting one. I know, right? I'm the last journalist.
But yeah, you have an Aston Martin. I've never driven. Neither one of us have driven. I'm like, hey.
Haven't driven Veloster N. Haven't driven Type R.
Okay.
Drove DBS Superleggera. So
you're going to basically get into the Type R and the Veloster N and say, no thanks.
Yeah, I'm going to guess that they're not quite your thing.
So no, it's first of all, that is completely false. I love cars, but my favorite car is actually hot hatchbacks. I own a Fiesta ST. Yes. And my neighbors all asked me because I sent them pictures of this Aston and this GTR. And they're like, how do you drive that and then get into like a Sentra? I had the Sentra last week, which I want to talk to Alex about. And I was like, the Sentra's fantastic. I was driving that in the Super back-to-back, and I couldn't stop saying nice things about the Sentra. It's such a nice little car because I'm able, you guys know this, like you have to.
I like the Sentra, yeah.
Yeah, no. And honestly, Nissan needs some good products right now. Like I'm happy that they did
desperately.
Sentra. It just needs more power. That's all.
So need is a strong word because I agree wholeheartedly that they need to do an SER or a Nismo or a whatever. But I think
the volume's not there. This is the eternal question, I would say, is do Halo models actually work? And there's a lot of opinion on both sides of this. So if the answer is that Civic shoppers do not buy Civic because SI and Type R exists, then Nissan should focus on the existing Sentra model. But if theoretically somehow you could increase your sales by 20% by having that turbo model, then that would be one thing. But the take rate on Civic Si as a percentage of their model spread, the model sales, is very low. And Type R, non-existent. Like, what did Davis say the Type R was being restricted to? It's a few thousand a year in the US?
For sales?
Yeah. 5,000 a year?
I think it might have been 5,000.
Yeah, they're like artificially limiting the manufacturing.
But well, Davis's comment was, though, mind you, he admitted that even though sales are somewhat limited, that they're really not that far below theoretical maximum. Like even if they could make all the Type Rs that they could want with a manual transmission, they're never going to really sell more than they do. So they're trying to keep it in the sweet spot of desirability and possible collectorness and all that. So that requires them to keep the sales kind of exactly where they are. So if they produced a few hundred more even, that might be over that limit, and they might start having to sit on dealer lots or actually get deals on them. But like in a month, Civic sells 22,000 a month.
I wonder why other manufacturers don't do that, because you see the Halo models, they sit and they don't sell. Like if you create this artificial demand like Porsche does.
And I would also argue that like Corolla is selling like hotcakes, relatively speaking, and it doesn't have a performance model. So do you need one?
Is Corolla selling like hotcakes? I heard the hatchback wasn't doing that well.
Well, I mean, Toyota's had troubles with hatches. Let's see here. Corolla sales figures yearly. Let's take a quick peek and see what they did. They're usually over 300,000 a year.
Do they?
What did they do in 2019? 304,000.
Corollas or Corolla hatchbacks?
That's the entire Corolla family, I believe.
I'd say
that's how they report that number.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
But the hatch was a recent addition, and it didn't do anything to help Corolla sales. So, I mean, it's like Corolla sales in general. They've sold over 300,000 a year every year, except for the deep darkness in the economy back in 2009, 2010.
Okay.
They've been selling 300,000 a year for a bazillion years.
That's a solid. I mean, we all know they're buying RAV4s instead now. But I guess that's a good point to move on to your guys' press cars. Maybe we should start with Alex, who has 4. I was nuts with 2.
So we have the Highlander Hybrid, an Ioniq plug-in hybrid, a Gladiator Mojave, and a Kia Forte GT.
So which one
Almost
is your
forgot
favorite?
one there.
Which one's your favorite out of those 4, Alex? Which one are you grabbing the keys to more?
Probably the Forte GT, which I've been surprised by.
Okay.
But this kind of leads me to a question. Can better actually be better? Can that be the better car? So like on paper, and I would say arguably the Forte GT is better in many ways than some of its direct competition. It's definitely more engaging than the Elantra Sport, I think.
That's
it has the latest version of the family suspension and design. It has a longer warranty than the Civic Si, and it has a dual clutch transmission. And I know a lot of purists will say that that's a negative, but the truth of the matter is Volkswagen has proved that hot hatches and hot sedans sell better with automatics. So GTI, GLI sell better with the DCT than with the manual transmission. And I actually like the feel overall better than the GLI as well. Remember the GLI and the GTI, not the same thing. And this is the competitor to the GLI, but it doesn't have quite as much personality as either of the other options.
So Civic Si and GLI have a little bit more.
I think they have a bit more personality. Like this, like the Jetta. The Jetta can have some of Volkswagen snazzier widgets, like the Disco Dash, right? As I recall, can have the LCD Disco Dash this year. Did I get that right? Do you remember?
Yeah, it can have that.
I think so. Yeah, it can have the full LCD cluster. That's a nice touch. And the Forte has a black and white instrument cluster. I think it's a little boring. But the nav system in the Forte, I think, is better than what we see in the Civic or the Volkswagen infotainment system in the dash in the GLI. I find the seats more comfortable than the Civic and the Jetta. It has a longer warranty, lower maintenance costs on the dual clutch transmission versus the Volkswagen one. The dual clutch exists versus no dual clutch in the Civic Si.
Do you know the window sticker on the one you're driving? And does yours have like the ventilated seat option?
This one has absolutely everything on it. Let me pull up the Monrooney here. It is, and that's the big thing, is price tag too. So this one's $26,445 after destination, and this has everything on it, including cargo mats, floor mats, a cargo net, an aftermarket auto dimming mirror with home link and a compass, all that schnaz, all for $26,445, or you could get it stripped for $22,290.
So that's like a grand. So the fully loaded one is only like $1,000 more than the Sentra I just drove, and
that's the thing. Yeah.
One with 201 horsepower is $3,000 less than the Sentra.
That's why it's so tempting to get that car, because of what they offer on it, like all the technology, the horsepower.
Wow.
That's the thing is, this fully loaded one, to all in, is the same price as a base Civic Si. And all in, it is less than a Jetta GLI.
Yeah, because a GLI, if you want like the Autobahn one, you're going to be spending 29. I remember they kept it just under 30 grand if you want ventilated seats and a DSG and all that kind of jazz.
Because this one all in with destination, 26,445. GLI without destination, 26,245.
It's amazing. It's $4,000 less.
Now you miss a few. There's a little bit less power in the GLI.
Yeah, it's 201 versus.
But you get the DSG standard. So if you were just price for price, this would be faster than everybody in a GLI except for Sabine Schmidt, because only she's going to roast the clutch good enough to get you 0 to 60 faster than the 7-speed DCT in the Forte.
I feel like Lewis Hamilton would be faster too. Don't be sexist, Alex. Reverse it.
Sabine Schmitz is my hero because only she can drive a van around the Nürburgring like that.
Yeah, that would be. She's the only one you know that's done it. I mean,
she did it with style.
Yeah, so that Forte, I need to get one of those Forte GTs because I've just been hearing. Because Sofyan, you said not like nothing but great. What did you compare that to? The Mazda 3, right? Which was like more money.
Yeah, so I did a video where I was talking about what happened to Mazda sales, and I had the 3 and the Forte together. And when I had the two together and drove them back to back, I didn't want to do like a full-on comparison, but everything about that Forte kind of drove the way I expected the Mazda to drive. Like lots of power, like fun to drive, like great transmission, handled really well. And the new Mazda 3 just felt very watered down. It was still a competent driving car, but it didn't feel special like it used to. Like the Mazda 3 it used to always stand out. And the interior stands out still, but then it's missing features that you expect it to have.
Ventilated seats, heated rear seats, vents in the rear. Like,
and I know Mazda's trying, because like we've been seeing in the media this week, I think Mazda is talking about a rear drive Mazda 6 that's coming out in 2022 with an inline.
That'll be sales poison.
Yeah. Like, they're saying like it could have 350 horsepower, and I was just like, if Mazda could do that and they put that out before Acura, like that would be kind of an embarrassment for Acura.
But how many people, like Alex, you watch this kind of stuff. How many people aren't buying a Mazda 6 now because it's not rear wheel drive, like turbocharged straight? Like, I don't know who's gonna, like, are these the same people that buy an SS, Chevy SS, and then didn't?
But then I actually would say that I'm often confused about Mazda sales sometimes. Like, I know they have a limited dealer network compared to Toyota, obviously. But generally speaking, their cars are well priced. For the dollar, they're well optioned versus the typical Honda and Toyota, right? So overall, they're not outside the norm in terms of deal. They're not Kia or Hyundai cheap or necessarily Nissan cheap, but they're not outside the window of normalcy in that zone. And you have a nicer interior and they're gorgeous on the outside. But somehow you have things like the Mazda 6 that undersells the Camry by hundreds of thousands of units, and the Mazda CX-9, which is the absolute worst seller in its segment, and was even beaten in 2019 by models that had been canceled for a full 13 months.
So I like the CX-9 how it drives, but I feel like things that SUV buyers, 3-row crossover buyers care about aren't that great on that car. But like, why does the CX-5? We all love it.
I'm torn there because like the CX-9 is the same size. It feels smaller. I will agree with that one because that's the complaint I've heard before. But when you actually measure it, like we took out the measuring tapes, measured it, luggage in, people in, etc., it is the same size or slightly larger inside than Highlander or Pilot, which are also small, mind you. So Pilot and Highlander are on the small side of the 3-row crossover segment. So the too small thing, CX-9 isn't really smaller than those two small options. And if you have child seats, it's one of the only options that lets you keep a child seat latched into place and still access the 3rd row. So it handles well, it accelerates well, it's got good fuel economy, dead last in sales. Absolutely dead last.
I would say there's 2 things. One, on size. There's nowhere to put your phone in the front row. Like, there's no tray area. The way that they have the whole dash layout, you have 2 cup holders, and if those are taken up, I don't remember there's anywhere convenient like to put.
There's the center console, a minor amount of area, but like
small.
But like, think about the other options that sell better than it. Like, do you honestly think that the Ford Flex that had been discontinued for 15 months should have sold better?
No.
Do you think that Durango should sell better than CX-9? Do you think that the old Ford Explorer that had been out of production for half the year should sell better than CX-9?
That's a little crazy, but the other thing is the way it drives is great. It's so fun to drive, but I don't think that through or crossover buyers necessarily care. Mm-hmm. And in fact, that the heavier steering is actually kind of annoying for like low, slow parking lot maneuvers and stuff like that. And I would rather have like a Highlander or something that just has very light, feathery steering and a 360 camera, because parking things like that suck. Like, I know.
So do you think that the Lincoln MKX is better than it, or the Buick Envision, or the Nissan Armada, or the Mitsubishi Outlander Sport?
Okay.
These are things that outsold it. Or the Volkswagen Atlas, which people think is unreliable, or the Nissan Pathfinder, which is positively ancient. I mean, it practically has an obituary already written.
I just had a Pathfinder Rock Creek edition.
Yeah. Or, I mean, the thing is I love Nissan. I love all the events they put out. The PR department is great to work with, and it kills me because they are seriously struggling, and it hurts to see them struggling so much. So when we do see a car like the Sentra, where they've actually fixed a lot of things, it's hopeful because we want to see Nissan recover from this.
Have you driven the Versa yet? That's actually very nice as well.
I think the Versa, actually, I'm really torn here because I liked the previous Versa for one simple reason, because it was cheap.
It was
and the Sentra,
$10,000.
And the Sentra, the current Sentra actually follows the typical Nissan plan of being the least expensive high value option. The trouble now with the Versa is it's not cheap anymore. And I think that's trickier. Being value is trickier because now you have the Yaris, which is basically a Mazda. And this is actually, I kind of wonder, like, Mazda and Toyota have proven that if you call a Mazda a Toyota, all of a sudden it sells, mind you. But at any rate, but like Yaris is about the same price or less than Versa. So why would you Versa, given the reputation, that Versa has?
So I would Versa, Alex, over the Yaris because it has a much more spacious backseat. Well, I guess it's a little more spacious. The old one had a more spacious backseat.
The old one was more spacious.
I think it also looks better. I don't like the way the Yaris looks. It's not my favorite, like, because it's got that. I mean, it's got the Toyota front end grafted onto it, and I was kind of not really a fan of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little dust. Like, looks like a dust buster kind of.
Also, the Yaris has like only 103 horsepower. 100.
Yeah, it is.
Even the Versa has 122. Like, what the heck? It's so underpowered. I mean, 100 horsepower basically in 2020 seems unacceptable to me.
Like let's look at the segment here.
I think the Versa might be my favorite, and it's not a super competitive segment because at that price, because people are shopping payments, not pricing. So how much more could a Corolla possibly be than a Yaris in your monthly payment? $10.
See, in this, but I would actually say so far Nissan's been doing okay because they still are the best seller in that segment, even with their new Versa at 66. But sales are down 13% over last year, and it looks like the vast majority of those sales went to Kia Rio and Ford Fiesta.
Ford Fiesta still.
Ford doesn't sell the Fiesta anymore, do they?
But Fiesta sales year to date are up 16%.
I guess the dealers are selling over the leftovers.
All the leftovers.
I don't know why you would buy one of those power shift Fiestas. That would be,
all people see is the cheap payment. That's what they.
But
they're like 11 grand.
But in an absolutely wrong. I mean, this is batshit because there is no other entry on this segment where the manufacturer listed sells more of their subcompact offering than their mainstream midsize crossover, mind you, except for the Mazda. So the Toyota Yaris outsold the CX-9.
That's so weird.
Which is the Mazda 2.
but it didn't outsell the CX-5, and it probably won't outsell that CX-30. That thing's probably going to sell. I still haven't driven that yet, but I'm sure it's like tall Mazda 3. So.
No, but they're so dependent on CX-5. It's kind of bad for business. Like, Sofyan, what was their percentage of their sales?
Oh, it was about 54% of Mazda's total North American sales are CX-5.
Yeah.
Over 50% is the CX-5.
They should
That's
just
insane.
Instead of Mazda, they should just be CX-5.
and then that also goes back to my scratching my head over CX-9. So if CX-5 is so huge in your sales split, how is it that none of those people somehow come back and buy a CX-9?
I don't know.
I feel like they're going to other brands when they need more space. I feel like they're going to Highlander.
Yeah, they must be.
Going to
Exactly.
Pilot, they're going to Explorer. Like, I think they go to other brands because I think what they realize is the CX-5, as good as it is, it's a little small on the inside. They'll go and look at a CX-9 and then they see that it's still small on the inside. When the whole reason why you're going to that segment is because you need space. So I think that's something Mazda needs to address. They need to start giving people in America what they want, and that's space. We want space in the third row or in the second row and in the trunk. Because like the CX-9 is pretty small considering how big it is on that side.
Maybe they should bring back the CX-7 and just do a 2-row that's big, but not three, because maybe
it's like
3-row, but
the tricky bit is that like, it's not like CX-9 is Tahoe length. It's, let's see here. It's
actually, Alex, it's 199 inches long. It's about 4 inches longer than Telluride.
Yeah, but 4 inches longer than Highlander. Telluride is exceptionally well packaged. So I would actually say that in this window, I couldn't include Telluride because it's the opposite thing. But like the length of this iPhone is longer than 4 inches. So this is more than the difference in length between a CX-9 and a Highlander. Mm-hmm. And Highlander is the same size inside. So like, that's not as big of a deal. Like in our group and like in the auto industry, we will fixate on things like that. But yeah, it's not as efficiently packaged as a Highlander, but the length is less than this iPhone.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the length is the problem with the CX-9 because like I had my sister drive it. Well, right? I had my sister drive it, and she's like a 5'2" small little Asian woman who can't drive very well. She can't park big cars, but she literally said that she didn't mind driving the CX-9. It felt small to her, but she said, "There's no room for my purse. There's no room for all of my daughter's stuff. Like, why does the CRV have more storage space?"
Bad ergo. That's it.
It's a little bit of ergonomics, yeah. But then I don't think the ergonomics in the Durango is great. It outsells it by a mile.
Alex, but that's because America, and we have to buy a car that's American, and it has to be.
Well, I mean, mind you, I bought a Durango.
Well, that's why the Explorer also sells very well, Alex, because it's American. And
I still haven't driven the new Explorer yet. Isn't it built in Canada?
I like the Explorer, but they had a bad rollout. It was not.
They had a bad rollout, and there's some things that I have that are fundamentally wrong with that car that I didn't really like. And I've only driven the ST version, so I can't.
The ST was my least favorite, I think.
And that's the thing is like the ST is like the flagship of the Explorer lineup, and I thought it had the dial turned a little too much on sport for a family.
Oh, really?
So,
is it?
But they still somehow beat Highlander in sales by nearly 20%.
Is the Explorer ST better than the Edge ST? Because I went on.
Yes.
The Edge ST is an Edge Sport with 2 extra gears and a different fork.
Right.
And if you like the Edge Sport, you won't like the Edge ST.
Okay.
And the problem with the Edge really is the transmission layout. So nobody makes a transverse transaxle that can handle more than about 350 pound-feet of torque-ish. And so that's the problem with the Edge ST is that the engine really has to be limited a lot. So like you look at like Lincoln Continental, where it's supposedly 400 horsepower, 400 pound-feet of torque, but it is slower 0 to 60 than a Kia K900, which is 500 pounds heavier and has less power and less torque. Because even though the engine theoretically someday may make 400 horsepower and 400 pound-feet of torque, it certainly is not doing it in first gear or second gear or at low RPMs or with the all-wheel drive system engaged or any of these things.
That's so weird.
But the Explorer ST will do that because it has the 10 speeds, which can handle it.
Drive based,
but it's not a Durango SRT. The Durango SRT is way faster.
Yeah, no, that's a crazy cool car.
That's also 10 grand more.
10 grand more than the faux Explorer ST.
Yes. So they actually, I think price-wise, they priced it right. So like Explorer ST is priced almost exactly between Durango 5.7 and Durango 6.4, which makes sense. Its performance is somewhere in between. But somehow when you're paying that much for an SUV, I was more disappointed in it than the others. And so when you're going up to $60,000, I would be like, let's just get the Durango SRT if you want the fast one.
Yeah.
And if you don't want the fast one, then I just wouldn't bother, and I would get the platinum version of the Explorer because it's nicer inside.
I got to drive one of those too, but let's maybe get to Sofyan's cars here because we might be having to let Sofyan run in a bit. So what are you driving this week?
So I have two hatches. One is a classic hot hatch, a GTI, a 2020 Autobahn with the dual clutch, and then I have a Chevy Bolt, a 2020 Chevy Bolt with the extra range. That has it. So now it has.
So which would you pick if it were your decision?
So actually, like I did a comparison test between the two, even though they're not really cars that people would normally compare them to. Like the Bolt is $44,000, while the GTI was $38,000. Although the discounts I was looking on both those cars are outrageous. So you're actually going to pay around $30 grand for both, or for each of them if you wanted to buy.
Is that after the tax credit for the Bolt or not?
The Bolt doesn't have a tax credit anymore. Instead, GM
that's right. Yeah.
Instead, GM put $8,500 in rebates on the hood.
Oh my God.
That's typical Chevy though.
It is the cheapest long range EV you can buy right now.
In like 9 years of financing or what?
I guess the Mini doesn't count because it's not long range.
Right. No, it has more range than the Model 3 Standard Range Plus, more range than the Kona EV, more range than the Niro and the Leaf Plus. Like only the Model 3 long range has more range, but that's $10,000 more, $20,000.
Does it feel kind of typical Chevy on the inside though? Like
yeah. So this is actually my first time driving the Bolt, and I will say, Alex, you're right. The seats are garbage. They are.
Yeah, I really did. Did you find it like pinching you in the shoulder area?
No, I just found that they were flat, and it's so thinly padded. Like you touch the seat back cushion, and there's no cushion. It's like just leather or a fake leather or whatever, and then there's the hard seat like there. And I was kind of just like, so you're kind of like squirming around in the seat and everything, and I don't fit. Like I'm literally like moving around, and then the cushion is really shallow on the bottom, so you sit on it. But then, like, my thighs are basically hitting into the hard part of the seat. And I'm just like, what? Where's all the padding for this seat? It's like they took the padding out because they spent all their money on, the powertrain, which I get it. The car like has this expensive battery and powertrain, but there are parts about the Bolt which kind of feel a little bit like an economy car. And I think that's where I have a little bit of an issue with it. The interior is... Well, it's funny because people complain Teslas have really cheap interiors, but my God, that Bolt's interior is really cheap as well. Like
that's why you amortize it by putting it in one car, and they didn't do that. So does it feel quicker than the GTI?
So off the line, I think it will smoke the GTI. Surprisingly, the GTI, even with the dual clutch, is a little laggy. Like the dual clutch in that car still takes a second for it to to pick the right gear, and then the turbo has to spool up. I think past 60, the GTI is faster. It's got more horsepower, but the Bolt has more torque. But that's the thing is, like in my comparison I did, like I was kind of torn, and I still haven't even picked the winner yet. I still have to finish filming it, but I was kind of just like, one of them obviously is electric. It's the easier car to daily because you don't have any maintenance really with it, and it's got all that instant torque. But then at the same time, I don't think I can get past the looks of the Bolt. I think it's one of the most hideous cars ever.
Why didn't they just make it a hatch or an SUV?
Well, it is a hatch. Well, if you park it
it's a hatch UV.
It's a hatch.
Why? Americans hate hatches, so make it an SUV.
Like having it parked next to the GTI, I was like shocked at how much taller it is. Like here, this photo of it, it literally looks like a van.
Oh my God, yeah.
Oh yeah, wow.
It's like 5 inches taller. And you know what's crazy is that Bolt has 7.4 inches of ground clearance. That's an inch more almost than the Model Y that I just reviewed.
Wow.
I was shocked at how tall that thing is. And you actually feel like you're sitting up high in it. I mean, some people really like the looks of it. I kind of look at it, I'm just like, people like to say, like, Jared, you don't like the way the Model Y looks. Same with you, Alex. You think it's ugly. But I look at that Bolt and I was like, this is also ugly. Like, I don't understand.
Oh, yeah. I mean, just because the Bolt is the Y is ugly doesn't mean I think the Bolt is attractive. No.
Right. Right.
I like the Kia Niro EV better than both of those, and I like the Kona EV better than.
So
both.
let me ask you guys both: what do you think is the best looking full EV on the market? Just
The Model S.
Model
old
S.
Model
No, the
S.
Taycan.
Taycan?
No, I like the old Model S better than the Taycan.
Oh my God!
Looks wise.
Have either of you driven Taycan yet?
Yeah.
I have not.
I have. It is
fun.
So I think the GTR is the most savage gas car launch I've ever felt. The Porsche is the fastest. Period. I've never launched harder.
The problem is the Model S in ludicrous mode still launches faster.
I don't think in instrument.
It does by the numbers. By the numbers in instrument testing, ludicrous mode Model S is still a hair faster. Now, this is my problem with Porsche. So Porsche's like, well, you know, this is because we have designed it to do the launch 10 times back to back to back, and it is faster. And that's true. Like, undoubtedly, like you wake up one morning and you just decide, I want to launch control my Taycan. Instrumented testing says Taycan is faster when you wake up and it's 50 degrees outside and you just launch control right from your driveway, faster than Model S. And it can do it 15 times back to back to back to back, no problem. But if everything is in the ideal condition, Model S will still beat it at least twice on a drag strip. And this is my problem. Like, how hard could it have been for Porsche to just beat them? And like, the top speed is electronically limited to like 3 kilometers an hour less than Model S. How hard could it have been to raise that 4 kilometers an hour? Why didn't you try?
Now I'm struggling to find the Taycan 0 to 60 time, but I thought that here we go. It was Car and Driver. That's why. So Car and Driver says Porsche Taycan Turbo S is the 3rd quickest car we've ever tested. Only the 918 Spider and Huracan Performante beat it to 60 in their testing.
There depends on which test you look at. A number of testing back to back, the Model S has been ever so slightly faster, but only once or twice. So it depends on how you've tested it. So like ideal conditions, battery pack has been acclimated, etc. Ludicrous mode engaged, obviously. Theoretically hair fast. In our testing, we actually could never get what Car and Driver got. And we tested it like ad nauseum in Belgium. Over and 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 over again.
I would still argue that Porsche, just like Audi and and BMW, I would trust if you and me, one of us was in the Porsche and one of us was in the Tesla, and we didn't set anything up. We just appeared on a red light. I have a feeling the Porsche would be faster. I would put money on it.
I would not be surprised. But if you if you plan, right, but the problem is that you don't have the bragging rights. And that's kind of my problem with the Porsche is that, in this circle, all the Porsche people are going to be like, oh, but, it does this, but it does that, but it does that. And all the Tesla people will be is we go faster 0 to 60 and we have a higher top speed. That's a sound bite. Faster 0 to 60, higher top speed. And all the Porsche people are like, yeah, but can you do it 10 times? Yeah, but do you need preconditioning? Yeah, but do you need this? Yeah, but do you need that? And in the bullshit argument wars, it's going to be, I go faster, I am faster.
And
right?
I hate this discussion already, but the GTI, Sofyan.
And I'm not a fan of Tesla build quality, but the Taycan that we had in Europe, let's just say the electronics weren't quite right.
Ooh, was it a pre-pro car?
Well, I mean, maybe. Was it? Because that's the explanation that was given, but is that true? I don't know.
Porsche was not happy that I borrowed a car from a dealer, and I got an email about it. So
was it Calvin? Did Calvin email you?
I don't even know a Calvin from Porsche. I don't even know who that is.
Who was it?
It was Luke.
Oh, Luke. Okay.
But I
think Calvin's his boss.
I'm like, I'll take a car for a week. I'm like, if you guys give me a car for a week, I'd be happy to test it. Give it a full review.
So we were driving around Europe. Mind you, we started in Denmark.
That trip.
And the first car we had, it had the like $1,500 option for a screen in front of the passenger.
Oh yeah,
and the screen kept rebooting. So we're like, what's wrong with the screen? And we're like, maybe it's the sensor, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. We kept trying everything, kept rebooting. So they oh, sorry. This was a pre-production car. It should have been taken out of rotation. We'll give you new ones. They gave us another car. That car had the same problem. So then they gave us another car. That car, all 6 screens in the car died one after the other until all the screens were dead. And we had no idea where the fuck we're supposed to go in the middle of nowhere in Denmark. And we're like, what on earth are we going to do? So we had to call up their PR people. And we're like, what's the address that we need to get to so we can just iPhone it there? And then a few minutes later, that car's infotainment system completely rebooted. And it was even the instrument cluster behind the steering wheel froze and it went black. So we had no idea how fast we were going, where we were, how much electricity we had. No idea, nothing, zero.
God.
The climate control was not doing anything as well. So then it rebooted like 15 minutes later. And then the next, so we told them about that. They took that one out of the fleet. Oh, sorry, whatever. They gave us another car. The other car also had the same problem with the passenger side infotainment screen. And then we were just like, we're not going to tell them anything. It's not worth the drama of swapping cars again. We're just going to live with it. And so we lived with it for another day. But, and then it's like weird things like, so you've got CarPlay in the center screen. Why can't I CarPlay on the passenger side? Why can't I control the air vents in the car from the passenger side screen that I paid about $2,000 for? I have to use the center screen. And the answer from the Porsche people was, well, the center screen is really for driver-centric features and the passenger screen for things that only the passenger should be worrying about. So that's why we have like car settings only on the center screen. So I'm like, so the passenger side shouldn't be adjusting their air vents? I'm confused. And then one of the other people was like, well, I think that the CarPlay thing is an Apple limitation. And I was like, I checked this one in advance. And Apple says that CarPlay can use up to 3 screens in a car. So let's try again. And then a German engineer piped in and he was, well, maybe the processor in the system just could not handle the processing power required for the second screen. And then the American PR person was like, no, that's not it. That's not it at all. And I was like, oh my God, did we accidentally hit on the right answer?
Do you feel that Porsche and other brands are always very protective of like little things of like why?
Every manufacturer. I actually think Honda's the worst.
Honda? Oh, really?
I think Honda's the worst because Honda will justify anything a million times over, especially when it comes to like fleet sales. They're like, well, Chrysler only outsells us because of fleet sales. And I'm like, yeah, but they sell double the number of minivans that you do. And they cannot all be fleet sales. And they're like, well, lots of fleet sales and we don't do fleet sales. It's like, yes, you do. I was just in Hawaii and there were choices where Kia Optima or Honda Accord. Like there were more Honda Accords available at Hertz than Kia Optimas. The deal is they don't have a dedicated manufacturer-sponsored fleet program. So Hertz buys the cars from a dealer and they don't get a discount from Honda for it, whereas everybody else buys semi-direct and gets a discount.
I wonder why they would do so. I'm curious about what you said with Apple CarPlay that you looked up with triple screens. Are there any cars that I haven't been any that would because I have an Android, but are there any cars where you can use Apple CarPlay on like the rear entertainment screens?
No, supposedly Apple supports it, but nobody has implemented it yet.
I wonder.
Android Auto, I think, supports at least 3 screens as well. So it's not just Apple. It's like all those smartphone connectivity things do that.
But I haven't seen a car so the BMW X7 that I had those amazing infotainment screens in the back.
Right.
But you couldn't Apple CarPlay to them.
No, which is weird.
Huh.
Yeah, I don't know. Cool. And supposedly when you CarPlay on multiple screens, you can be running multiple apps. So like the front CarPlay screen could be Wazing, the rear CarPlay screen could be on infotainment, the other screen could be on podcasts or whatever.
Okay. So do you guys want to I know Sofyan might be running out of time here. do you guys want to pick one or two of these topics that I had here to discuss? And we'll maybe go with which one.
I think you said you wanted to. I think we should talk about what is the best deal on a new car you can get right now during this pandemic, because there's a lot of good deals to be had.
Let's see.
There are deals to be had. Alex, if you want to do some research, because I know for a fact because I've researched
I'm
this
just going
all
to look
day.
up local deals because that's what I care about.
Okay. The best deal that I saw was if you could find a leftover 2019 Ford of any kind. So the best deals that we saw were on F-150s and Mustangs. They're doing 0% for 72 months with thousands off on the hood. So you'll get, like, I think we priced out a Mustang for like a Mustang GT for 72 months, and it was in the $300 a month range for like a monthly payment. I'm like, that's fantastic.
Well, I want to know what the sale price is after all the discounts. That's the number I want to know. So if we're talking like a $50,000 MSRP, how much are we financing?
And so, like, one of Roman Micah's guys in Colorado just got a Silverado. He got over $10,000 off.
And, well, that's very common though with big trucks. With the big trucks,
like
you can usually take
five to 7,000 off. 10,000 off with the financing deal is pretty rare.
So with the financing deal, that is a little bit rare because usually if you're going to take the 0%, you're going to lose $3,000.
Like FCA's National Truck Month retail bonus cash right now is $1,000 off, and it looks like the local dealer here, which has got a ton of Ram trucks on sale. And usually FCA is the thirstiest when it comes to discounts. The dealer discount's only $6,000, so that's $7,000 total.
So I was doing a little research, and every time I try to figure out what is the cheapest new car out there, and I'm not including the 2019s because the leftover 19s are a little hard to find. I'm talking about, I just wanted to look at just the 2020s. The big three are always important to look at. So the F-150, the Silverado, and the Ram. I found that the Ram had the biggest discount, like you said, Alex. It was close to $12,000 off the sticker, which is pretty good, considering that's even if you go for the financing. But
I was gonna say, I think we might have hit it here. New Chrysler, the Chrysler Jeep Ram dealer on Capital Expressway locally advertised on their website $12,000 off a 2020 Laramie Crew Cab with the Eco Diesel. It's an Eco Diesel discount.
Okay, so I think for Ram, Ram has like the best deal for truck. But you know what's interesting is while I was doing my research for one of the cars that I'm driving this week, the Bolt I think is the best deal for a new car right now because you can take $12,000 off the sticker on a Bolt. The Bolt that I have in my driveway.
Here's a $13,000 discount on a Ram 2020 Ram 1500 Limited with the Eco Diesel as well.
But you have to be careful though, because sometimes they'll include rebates that you don't qualify.
Yeah, like I'm seeing.
So this one's only including the National Truck Month retail bonus cash. That's all that's being added to that one. It says may qualify for additional discounts. So you may get like if you're military or a previous lessee or whatever, you could get additional ones. But this is just the National FCA Truck Month, $3,000 on the hood from FCA, and then an additional $9,700 from the dealer on the hood of this one, just listed on their website. No haggling.
I'm seeing about 10,000 off on Mustangs, 2019 Mustangs. So you could get, the only thing is the 0% doesn't work for Shelby models. So you can't get like a GT through 50. But that's
understandable.
But I'm seeing like an EcoBoost with an automatic for $19,000.
So from 30,000 to $19,000, something like that.
Isn't that
this
pretty?
Ram? I might need a new Ram truck. This Ram truck actually looks pretty good. The one
Look
with
at
all
that,
this
Alex,
cash on the.
He might be going over to his local Ram dealer.
It's gray. It's the limited trim with the wood interior. This is gorgeous.
I would love that.
Look at Alex. You are you definitely love your FCA products, Alex. He has a thing. He has a soft spot. People like to say that I'm Honda biased, but Alex definitely likes his FCA. The
interiors. FCA knows how to glue some wood on the dash.
And leather.
Even you have to admit, like if you had to shop and your criteria was interior design, would you pick a Ram, a Chevy, or a Ford?
Oh, the Ram isn't even close.
The Ram is gorgeous.
And I like the way it drives too. It drives very car-like, super comfortable.
I mean, the Eco Diesel is my least favorite diesel. I'd still might buy with that kind of cash on the hood. I might still buy one.
The problem is like I like the Ram's interior. I don't mind the exterior styling, but for me, like when I drive a truck, I love the 6.2 V8 in GM trucks. Like,
6.2 is a lovely engine.
6.2
GM makes great engines
with an exhaust. Has a great transmission. Like the Ram, all it has is the 5.7 or the Eco Diesel, which the 5.7 is a little underpowered sometimes. I felt. And then the Eco Diesel.
The 5.7 is a little slower. The 5.7 is like right between GM's engines, so it's right between the 5.3 and the 6.2 in terms of power.
Yeah, the 5.3 didn't feel fast to me when I drove that. It was.
I do like this. The ZF 8-speed definitely has better shift quality than GM's 10-speed, but GM's inline 6 diesel is perfect.
Yeah, well, because it's a straight 6. It's very inherently smooth and stuff. So I think Ram should consider offering the 6.4 in the 1500.
Supposedly it will happen.
Well, they're going to do the Hellcat engine in it. Yeah.
It's supposedly the reason we haven't had that earlier is because they can't build enough.
Really?
Of Hellcat motor.
Hellcat
engines. The 6.2 supercharged, the factory that makes the supercharger cannot build enough. So that's why otherwise FCA would jam that and everything. So supposedly there's a Hellcat Durango and a Hellcat truck coming up essentially. But the reason we don't have them yet is because they cannot make enough engines.
That's not a bad problem to have, I guess.
Because FCA does the crazy stuff. So if they could make enough, it would be in everything.
They would do it. Yeah, which I would buy.
No, I just wish that someone would make that same level of crazy for a transverse platform. Like someone should do this. Honda or Ford or anybody could do this. Like 400 horsepower in a front wheel drive thing. That would be
so. All right. So here's the thing I wanted to talk to you guys about. You've seen this, right? This Palisade N. I'm going to go ahead and pull it up.
Yeah.
So that's the Palisade N. Let's see. There we go. Screen sharing. So that's the Hyundai Palisade N. It's not real. It's just a rendering. It was an April Fool's Day joke.
It's a very good rendering too. It looks real.
Yeah. No, they did the Alex, you might like this, the Nexo N.
Yeah, the Nexo N.
I love that too. But I mean, if you guys can look here, 37,000 reads on this article. So clearly people care about this.
Sure. It's hilarious.
But what would people buy it?
No.
I think, well, let's look at Explorer ST sales. How many of the Explorers are selling an ST form? Like
very little. It's the lowest volume engine, they said.
I'll have to email I know one of my good friends is the sales manager at a Ford dealership. I should text him and say, hey, how many STs do you sell out of the Explorer line? Because this would be a direct competitor to the ST, but I think it would be better done than the ST. Like it'll have a cabin, more space on the inside. It'll be better price. It won't be $60,000 like the ST is.
So like supposedly,
3.5.
According to the FCA people, supposedly, by far the volume engine in the Durango is the 3.6, the 300 horsepower engine. The 5.7, which we have, and mind you, the Durango is one of the few vehicles that size that can tow large amounts. So it actually out-tows Tahoe and Suburban and Yukon and Escalade currently. So if you want to tow over 7,000 pounds in the V8 or over 8,700 pounds in the bigger V8, Durango is the thing to tow with. It out-tows most of them.
Yeah.
And so that's theoretically what people are buying the V8 for. 5.7 liter V8 sales are about 20%. 6.4 liter V8 sales, which are the batshit crazy one, those are apparently about like 2% of Durango sales.
I wonder why.
That's the problem. Cost. So and so supposedly from what I've heard on Ford was their expectation of Explorer ST, and they would not give me a number for Explorer ST alone. They said Explorer ST and Platinum together, which are the two top end trims, they expected 5% sales split between those two models.
All right. So let's do one more. And it's a recent bit of news that we got because Cadillac seems to love this slow tease. I don't know if this is COVID related or if it was always their plan to just tease this so slowly. But this is the big news. Let me pull it up here. We've got the Cadillac CT4 and CT5 V black wings. So
don't you mean the Lackwin?
the not wing.
You know what?
No. Their social media page, if you recall, if you look at it on Facebook, the B at the end and the B at the beginning and the G at the end are cut off in all of their social media posts. So it says Lackwin.
So backstory here, Cadillac came out with the CT5V and the CT4V, which sort of replaced the ATS-V and CTS-V, but not really, not directly. Both of them, if you look at those last V cars, are complete like disasters because you have like a 360 horsepower car and a 320 horsepower car replacing a 640 horsepower car and a 464 horsepower car.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody's like, have they lost their minds?
It was a downgrade. It was a big downgrade.
Yeah, huge downgrade.
Yeah,
but
because they're kind of realigning what V means for the brand.
Right. Why?
Who knows?
Well, because I think they did it because the actual V products for so long were just too batshit crazy. Like people were.
Is that a bad thing? It's working for Dodge.
No, it's a wonderful thing, but then you have the person who drives Mustangs and runs into crowds with their Mustang, like they're doing that in the Cadillacs. So they needed something that was a little bit less batshit crazy, but with that V badge on it. So
I would argue that it works for Dodge and it could work for Chevy, but for Cadillac, if you're trying to compete with BMW and Mercedes, then you need finesse. And if you're doing it with Chevy, it doesn't matter. Like Dodge discovered that you can jam 700 horsepower under the hood and change very little else about the car, and all of a sudden it doesn't matter. But you're selling it as a Dodge. So if you tried to sell it as a luxury car, then all of a sudden precision and finesse is important.
Mm-hmm. So my question for you, Jared, because the CT5 and CT4V Blackwing will be the only options in the segment with a manual transmission. Would that make it an instant buy for you over like an M3 or an M5 or E63, C63?
Well, M3 and M4 are getting manuals. So this will not be the only manual
That's
thing.
true.
Long term, yeah.
Yeah, nothing makes anything an instant buy for me because I always had a big hurdle to clear with Cadillac because I never, I always saw them as like an old person's brand and I didn't really understand the V models until I drove an ATS-V, and that is on my short list of cars I would replace my
good. They're really good.
The engine was nothing special and the interior was not great either.
But the chassis is so good. Like nothing else really can handle as well as that thing does, except maybe the Giulia. The Giulia gets close, but
yes, the Giulia gets very close, has a better engine, similar interior, looks prettier too. But I would rather own
Cadillac's cheaper. Yeah, it's cheaper and it's probably going to break less than the Alfa.
That would be the guess.
It's the lesser of two evils versus the Alfa. Right?
Yeah, no, I agree.
And of course, it's a supercharged engine, so it's going to feel very different than the turbos. There's going to be no lag. It's going to be a little bit more instant. It's going to, have that different feel to it.
We'll have to see because we still don't know what engine these Blackwing cars, because they're not getting the Blackwing.
No, they did. They said it's going to get a 6.2 liter supercharged V8.
Oh, they did say, okay, so that's just the LT4.
Yep, so it's 650 in the CT5, and then all they said was around, that the V6 twin turbo in the CT4.
Right, so we don't know what the power output is, but the rumor is that it's going to be a 6.2 liter supercharged V8. Supposedly because they do not have the money to adapt the Blackwing twin turbo V8 into the CT, the new chassis, whatever they're naming these things.
Yeah. But have you guys driven Blackwing in the CT6? Meaning, I don't think they ever put out press cars for it.
They put out a very limited number, but not very many because they're just not selling.
Yeah, like what's the point of GM or Cadillac spending the PR money to advertise it when they're gone?
So Alex, you might get a kick out of this because I wrote an article about the CT6V, and you might get a kick out of the. Let me see if I can find the right car. So they're doing you can get a sick deal on a CT6V right now, which is amazing because they didn't build a lot. So Cadillac told me that 600 examples of the CT6 were produced in 2019 and 2020. So 1,200 total Blackwing cars. So 75% of those were V models and 25 were the Platinum, which also has the Blackwing, but not V. So that's like 500 horsepower, 574. The V has a little more. It's 550 and 640. So that means that if you want the rarest Cadillac CT6 that there is, it's the Platinum, not the V.
Right.
Which is really weird. So that's going to be a rare collectible one, I guess. But super weird. But yeah, I don't mind it because did you either of you drive the last gen CT-SV?
Yes.
I loved it.
I heard it was amazing. I never
It's a little rough around the edges.
Fun.
It's fun. It's a little rough around the edges, but I think that's the part of the charm with it. Like it's not as refined or as luxurious as an E63, but the engine is so bonkers in it, like it almost makes up for it a little bit.
So, but would that in a new Cadillac that's a bit smaller and now with a manual, would that entice you to buy one over an M5, Alex? Because I know you were singing the M5's praise. It would for me, because I don't love the M5. I think it feels
my problem would be the CTS and the new 5 is just a little too small inside. Like the packaging efficiency is a little bit not there. So if the CT6 was still around and it could be had with that engine for M5 pricing, then maybe. But my problem with a lot of the Cadillac models is not the product, it's the price tag.
Yeah, like the CT or the XT6 is like outrageously expensive, and it's
XT6 is way more expensive than Aviator. It's got 100 horsepower less. XT4 is crazy expensive. XT5 crazy expensive. Last XT4 we had was almost $15,000 more than the XC40 we had during the same time frame, and it was slower and handled worse.
But then don't they do the typical GM thing, and you get $10,000 to $12,000 off the sticker price? So it's really the
trouble is they don't always do that, and then they're not going to do that at the very beginning. And then in this industry, how can we talk about discounts when they always vary? We have to go by MSRP. So if this month you're going to get $5,000 off, next month you're going to get $6,000 or $2,000 or whatever. It's not like we can rationally have an article that's going to live online forever and talk about discounts that way.
Yeah, that and reliability too. If I think
Cadillac's reliability, I'm not too worried about.
Well, I loved your video. Everybody who's watching, check out Alex's video on reliability and why automotive reviewers don't talk about it all the time, because we just don't have crystal balls. We can't say. You could buy a Giulia that never has problems, and you could buy a Lexus ES350 that's a lemon. Either of those realities are possible, but we can't say for sure. So you never know. But it's the same thing with these discounts. People say, well, I could get this much money on this and whatever. I'm like, well, I need to tell you what the manufacturer retail price is. I can't, just go off of
it's like whatever. You can't go off that. So it's like, let's look at the scale here. So where's Cadillac here? Actually, Cadillac did not do too well in this last year on Consumer Reports. They were 30th, last out of the brands that they actually examined. It looks like they were really harmed by their crossovers. So that's a problem. So actually, they managed to beat Alfa Romeo in the unreliability war.
Wow.
That's depressing.
I actually have to get going though, guys. I've got somebody calling me from downstairs.
All right. Well, I think.
Alrighty. Well, it's a good time to end.
It was great. We can keep going, Alex, if you want. We don't have to.
I do have other pressing obligations, unfortunately, but we can always attempt to redo this sometime next week or something.
Yeah, absolutely as well. We can definitely plan to do this again. I don't know what car.
There's more wine. I'm sure that Sofyan will have cider by then. So cheers.
Yeah.
Wait. Do you guys think that this will be off lockdown next week?
Oh, no.
We're going to be stuck like this for another month or two at least.
In California, we're definitely going to be on until May, although the local beaches may open.
See you guys later, though. Cool.
Yeah, all right.
Alex.
See you later.
So
the local beaches may open, but social distancing will still be in effect. And then businesses may be able to start taking on some semi-essential work in May, but we don't know all the details yet.
We will see, but I'm sure that there will still be plenty of time for live streams like this because, lots
of time.
So
no launch events for a while, I'm pretty sure, because otherwise we would already have the invites.
Yes, we would. So that it's just more things like the 2021 Supra, which you and I will talk about at a later date once the embargo drops. 2021 Civic Type R, once either one of us gets that car.
Soon.
We'll talk about it later. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this live stream. And thank you so much, Alex and Sofyan, who left, for doing this.
Take care.
Thanks. All right.
Bye.